Hi, want to hear the story about the smallest sculpture in London and the murder that happened, which it commemorates? We're not talking about the walkie-talkie, we're talking about Philpott Lane, we're talking about this building here. The story goes, when it was being built, two of the builders were friends. One's sandwiches disappeared. He had a fight with his friend who he accused of eating them. Only after he pushed his friend off the roof, who then died, was it discovered that it in fact was a pair of mice. Sneaky mice that had eaten his sandwiches. And the mice have now been permanently memorialised here on the side of the building, the smallest sculpture in London, allegedly. Hi, it's Parliament Square. On July the 4th, I'm here to show the connections between this statue of Abraham Lincoln and another statue here in Parliament Square. Let's have a look. First of all, there's Westminster Abbey, Houses of Parliament, and over here is a statue to Lord Derby, one of the less known Victorian Prime Ministers, died in 1869. But on the back of the plinth is this monument here, dedicated, as it says at the bottom, to the Central Executive Cotton Famine Relief Committee, Manchester, 1865. What's the background to this? It's all to do with the American Civil War and support for the anti-slavery movement. Cotton was the major export from a lot of the American states, funded through the slave labour. So the cotton workers in Manchester, who depended on this trade for their livelihood, agreed to strike and refuse to process American slave-based cotton. This started in 1862, and it led to many of the workers facing starvation and destitution, but they continued to support the anti-slavery movement in America by boycotting the goods very successfully. This committee was set up by Lord Derby here to support the anti-slavery movement, and they continued to do so and showed their support for humanitarian principles against the slave movement, and it's all commemorated here. So that's the link. And also Lincoln himself sent a letter to the strikers in 1863 thanking them for their humanitarian efforts to support the anti-slavery movement. So here we are, July the 4th, commemorating the links between Britain and America and the anti-slavery campaign. So I'm walking down the City of London. Suddenly noticed this street here, Trump Street. Okay, that's fair enough. What's just around the corner from it? Walk just a few yards and you'll find that Trump Street leads directly to Russia Row. How on earth could Trump and Russia be connected? So I'm about to enter the holy grail of Bob Dylan recordings. I'm about to enter the room in which is being sold later this week the unique single copy of the new recording of Blowing in the Wind. This is Stephen Bennett's engineer. This is the people, and this is the exceptional hi-fi on which they're going to play it to me. I'm not allowed to record it, unfortunately, because otherwise that would break the unique copy of the sale. But amazing hi-fi, historic record, a single copy of it. Record jacket. This is the record jacket. Amazing record jacket. I've never seen one that small before. Anyway, gentlemen, I'm going to record stopping now. This is a parliamentary inquiry into the causes of the Great Fire of London, commemorated here at the monument. The inquiry, dated 1667, says it's the insolency of Popish priests and Jesuits. So clearly they wanted to blame the Catholics, even though there was no real evidence for it. This is my original copy of the 1667 document, detailing exactly what happened. They blamed the Catholics. There was even an inscription at the base of the building for about 150 years after its creation, still blaming the Catholics as well, only taken down a lot later. The usual suspects, as they felt they were at the time. Hello, I'm here in the City of London, London Wall. I'm here to show you another bizarre secret hidden here. So through this doorway, down these steps, and I'm going to run again. Apologies if I make you feel sick, but I don't know how to speed up the video otherwise. Into the, yes, it's an underground car park. It's not that interesting in itself, but go into the car park. Run, 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 run. Over here, bay number 63, right over here. Bay number 54 even. And we have preserved here, bizarrely, a section of the original 1800-year-old Roman wall that used to be around the edge of the City of London. Look how big the car park is. And this is the Roman wall. Absolutely incredible, preserved here in Bay 52 of the car park. Hello, this is David. I'm at the Ned Hotel. Luxurious, fantastic 5-star hotel owned by Soho House, I believe. It's a beautiful building, but it's got a secret in the basement. Again, apologies if I make you feel sick. Bands are out to play, look at the roof, look at the lovely sound. You can bar. But if we go downstairs, you'll see the secret of what this building used to be. Built in the 1920s by Edwin Lutyens, the same man who designed the Cenotaph in Whitehall, dedicated to the memory of the war dead. This used to be the headquarters of the Midland Bank. And if you look here, you will see that they still have the amazing bank vault door built for the bank, and inside here we have the guarding swan for all the safe deposit boxes in this wonderful bank. The Ned Hotel, formerly headquarters of the Midland Bank. This is the statue of Tara, and when it was first brought to the British Museum, it was considered to be so erotic that it was hidden away for at least 30 years before it was finally unveiled, as it were. But it's actually a deeply, deeply spiritual symbol of compassion. The goddess Tara was a Hindu goddess who was then repurposed by Buddhist theory to represent the Bodhisattva, and it's absolutely made of entire solid bronze, which was gilded with gold, offering welcome and peace, and there might possibly have been a living in there. But it is a remarkable, from about 800 AD survival, incredibly rare, stunningly beautiful, and deeply, deeply spiritual. Did you hear about the man whose decapitated head grew back onto his body? Well, he's commemorated here at the 1950s rebuilding of the Dutch church that was originally created in the 1540s as a gift by King Edward, the boy king, to the Dutch congregation. It commemorates here a man called Richard Fitzalan, who was the Earl of Arundel in 1397 he was beheaded and buried in the old church that used to be on this site. Legend has it that his head grew back onto his body, which is why you can see here he's attempting to make sure it stays there. Hi, it's David here again. I'm at Victoria Station looking at this artwork here against the entrance to the station, which is probably what's one of the most bizarre installations I've ever seen, possibly quite insulting to people with disabilities. But the entire sides of the metal along the entrance exit to the underground here, I was realising recently, these look like possibly some kind of an alphabet. I've checked, it is in fact entirely made of Braille. Now, if it's Braille, designed to be read by people with blindness, how come they're so huge, mounted all the way up a wall? In what possible way could anyone suffering from visual disability actually use or see these? Well, I've checked the alphabet, I've transcribed it, it all says the Wilton Way, which is the name of the street along here where Wicked is playing, and it's also on the other side right over there by the Palace Theatre. But why on earth did they think this was a good idea? I have no idea. It's not mentioned anywhere in Google. I can't find any reference to it anywhere apart from on my own blog, but there you go. I'm in the church of St James Garlic Hythe, one of Christopher Wren's masterpieces, so-called the lantern, because there was no stained glass in it. I'm in the pulpit, and I've just noticed this little peg here. Apparently it's for putting your wig on before you gave your sermons. What a wonderful church this is. It's also meant to be haunted. A mummified body was found up here. It was known as Jimmy Garlic, and the vicar used to charge people to see it. This is a sculpture by Anthony Gormley in Shoe Lane, next to the Deloitte headquarters and Goldman Sachs. It's meant to be about pixelations and views from distance and close-up, and it's meant to also resemble, from the side, a city landscape that's being reversed. But I think it's rather wonderful. Hi, I'm in Fleet Street. This is Ludgate House, owned by Regus. I'm going to run up the stairs to show you the James Bond related lift in this building. This was indeed the scene of a massive fight in a James Bond film inside this very lift, which hopefully will be open to show you. And yes, it is. Open the lift up, and you'll see that it is Sean Connery from Diamonds Are Forever. Had a massive fist fight with a Russian agent in this lift. Yes, I am going up, thank you very much.
What floor?
Any floor will do. Just want to experience the same fight scene that James Bond had in this lift. Here we go, thank you. This is the ancient church, 2,000 years of history, of St Bride's, just in Fleet Street, where all the journalists used to worship. It's also famous for being the second highest spire after St Paul's, designed by Christopher Wren. And the spire itself, which you can just about make out here, was actually the inspiration for the wedding cake. A baker called Mr. Rich was wandering around wondering how to celebrate his wedding. He saw this spire and said, let's make a cake in that shape. And that's how the traditional wedding cake shape was made, all because of this church spire. Ironically, St Bride's, although bride is actually an Irish Saint Bridget. Hey everybody, I'm with my tour group friends here today. Hi, this is Amanda.
Hi.
And this is Julia. And we are in the Sherlock Holmes pub, Arthur Conan Doyle here, in the middle of Westminster. If you go upstairs in the pub, there is this amazing room here, left over from the Festival of Britain in the 1950s, in which every single exhibit of the 1,000 or so items in here is connected somehow or other to the Sherlock Holmes stories. I don't know what belongs to what. Maybe you can start to work out all the connections, but it literally has everything to do with Sherlock Holmes. Hello, I'm outside Westminster City Hall. I'm looking at this amazing silver birch artwork inspired, allegedly, by Paolo Uccello's Hunt in a Forest. It shows urban forests from Europe, and the light, when it reflects on it in the morning, is absolutely superb. Hi, this is David. I'm in the Conrad Hilton Hotel, right next to St James's Park Station. I'm going to show you some amazing political satire artwork. So we're really close to the Houses of Parliament here, and this is a unique sculpture called The House Always Wins by artist called Evil Robots. As you can see, they've made these toys into a collection of MPs sitting in the House of Parliament, about to have a debate, massive fight, or getting angry with each other. I think it's absolutely hilarious, brilliant concept. And particularly, I've noticed a few weeks ago, some children had torn these MPs off. They've been replaced, so continuing, it's an ever-growing work of art. So the house always wins by the artist's evil robots, very close to Parliament. In the Second World War, a blind match seller used to work here, facing this building. This building was the headquarters of MI6, and this match seller was allegedly a blind, pretending to be blind, German spy, marking who entered and left the building to report back to the Nazi superiors. So it was 20 years ago, on the 3rd of July 2002, that this statue was in public just upstairs in the Guildhall Art Gallery. However, a man walked into the gallery with a cricket bat stuck down his trousers. He tried to knock her head off, he couldn't do it, so he used the stanchion around the gallery art and eventually managed to do it. So she was being removed out of the public harm's way, back here in the backstage area where the staff now work. But you can still faintly, very faintly, see the line around her neck where her head was put back on again. Margaret Thatcher. Hi, it's David here. So forget about your Pret, your Starbucks, your Costa. This is where it all began 370 years ago. Around the edge somewhere of this churchyard of St Michael Cornhill, a young Smyrnan merchant called Pasquale Rosé set up a tiny little stall against the edge of the churchyard. But this stall changed the world. It became the very first in the country coffee house. Now, coffee houses were so important to the history of this country because they allowed people to get together, formerly repressed under Charles I, without being drunk, to take on discussions of anything: trade, commerce, intellectual pursuits, academic studies, astrology, astronomy, scientific endeavour. Everything was enabled by the coffee houses, so much so they were known as penny universities. And it all started on this spot. Hi, this is David. So that today might be the hottest day ever recorded in entire London history. But this woman made it even hotter, because this is Boudicca, Boadicea, who in the year 60, burnt London to the ground, destroyed it, destroying all the Roman 30,000 people in London at the time, according to some statistics. So why is she honoured here, considering that she razed London to the ground? Perhaps because it has a symbol of resistance against external oppression. Anyway, she's here, but I'm not convinced because she really actually burnt London to the ground. Hi, I'm David, and today I'm a volunteer church watcher at this miraculous church, St Magnus Martyr, right next to the London Bridge in the City of London. Let's go inside. This church is full of incredible, wonderful things. I'm going to show you two. First of all, this is a early fire engine from possibly the late 17th century, around the same time as the Great Fire of London even. And it's made to try and put fires out. You can see here the pump that would have been used from it. We've also got the church itself, which is a wonderful Christopher Wren Church. T.S. Eliot actually used to worship here. He was a sidesman. He mentions the pillars in his poem The Wasteland. But the real amazing discovery here is this. This is a minute copy of what the original London Bridge would have looked like in about the year 1400, when it was the only bridge across London, built around 1209 in stone. There's a little drawbridge as well. They've even got some of the heads of executed traitors on the pin here. The first one of which was William Wallace, Braveheart, that amazing Australian actor. Now, this, as I said, also has a little chapel here dedicated to Thomas à Becket,
England's patron saint at this time, around 1400. It took about an hour to cross the bridge, allegedly, when it was so busy, and the watermen and lightermen had restrictive practices, which meant that there was no other bridge until 1750. So this is the only way to cross it, unless you had a boat. Also, the many piers on the bridge meant that the water behind it froze easily, which is why we had so many frost fares, as the water was so slow moving. It wasn't until 1831 that this was replaced with a much wider piers that the frost fares ceased. But here you go, this is a view all the way along London Bridge in about the year 1400. So this statue was in Apsley House, Wellington's house, but it's of Napoleon. It was a victory prize, and when it was installed here, this fig leaf, I believe, was added. In the Second World War, it is alleged that a bomb blew the fig leaf off, and a maid who came in to find it was so shocked that she fainted.
If you're an animal lover like me, it's very moving to come here. This is in Marble Arch. It's called the Dickin Memorial, and it's dedicated to all the animals who have served and saved the lives of humans, particularly in times of war. The first 3 medals, equivalent to the Animal Victoria Cross, were awarded in 1943 to 3 pigeons. More recently, 2 dogs whose owners were trapped, guide dogs for the blind, whose owners were trapped in the Twin Towers on 9/11, were also commemorated for leaving their owners and many, many other people to rescue on that day. But lots of different animals have been awarded, and it's truly heartwarming, but also very, very sad to think about these animals that have given up their lives in many cases to save us. This is a revolutionary cutting-edge castle designed in the 1540s personally by King Henry VIII himself. What's so unusual about it? 2 things. First of all, unlike previous castles, it's not high. Castles before, you needed to have arrows thrown from them or boiling oil poured onto your attackers. That changed. Nowadays, you had to deal with cannonballs and gunpowder. A lower castle was a lot harder to destroy with long-range cannons. Secondly, there are no curved edges, no bastions in these castles. It's all triangular, sort of diamond shapes. Why? Because it meant that you could arrange your cannon along the top to fire from any angle, and also move them right up to the edge of the corners as well. Whereas previously there was a gap there you couldn't fire easily your cannon from as well. So Henry VIII personally designed this, 1544. It's a revolutionary castle. Thank you, Frankie.
This is the tombstone of the writer of the Sherlock Holmes books, Arthur Conan Doyle. He was a spiritualist and was buried standing upright in terms of spiritualist beliefs. Towards the end of his life, he did develop some rather unusual beliefs. In particular, he was ridiculed for writing this book, The Canon of the Fairies, which does indeed seem to be irrational compared to the logic of Holmes. I'm in the Portsmouth Holmes Museum here. I've just discovered that, amongst other things, Arthur Conan Doyle was the first goalkeeper for Portsmouth Football Club. The secret wedding. Charles II officially married Catherine of Braganza in 1662 in Portsmouth, where I am. But on the same day, in a secret ceremony, he also conducted a Catholic wedding too. This is the official wedding certificate. And he then converted to Catholicism, allegedly later, on his own deathbed. And of course, his brother was a Catholic too. By the way, he had many, many mistresses, as you all know, one of whom became the Duchess of Portsmouth. And she gave these 2 wonderful flagons to the city. So you've got the king, his wife, and his mistress, all remembered next to each other.
Look at the pediment above the entrance to the British Museum. We have man emerging from the rocks, being instructed by an angel in how to cultivate and look after animals, learning to appreciate the arts, including geometry, sculpture, painting, music, and in the end we have the cultured man who's emerged from the education in all of the aspects of becoming a civilized human being, all illustrated from the 1831 pediment above the British Museum. This is the terribly sad story about the bombing of St Clement Danes in the Second World War. This is a Christopher Wren Church, a miraculous, a beautiful church. But in September 1940, it was almost entirely destroyed during the Blitz. This is a photograph of what happened to it. And unfortunately, the vicar, rector, William Pennington Bickford, and his wife Louise, when they came back, he was totally heartbroken to see the church destroyed. He died of a broken heart. And less than a month later, his wife Louise took her own life because she couldn't bear to live without him. The church has been restored now, and it is dedicated to the Royal Air Force. They maintain it, and it is full of memorials to the airmen and women who gave their lives to save this country. So I'm in the mess deck of HMS Belfast, and this is Frankenstein the cat, and the ships needed cats to put down vermin, and there are photographs to prove they genuinely did have little hammocks to keep the cats in. This isn't just a fanciful recreation. Mess deck, HMS Belfast. So what does this wonderful market have to do with Tom, Dick and Harry? It's called Leadenhall Market. Tom was a goose who escaped from his cage and was made into the market mascot. Read this, pause to read it. Dick is the famous Lord Mayor of London, Dick Whittington, who died and left all his money for various things, including building the original 15th century version of this market. And Harry, you're a wizard, Harry. This is where Hagrid walked Harry through the market around the corner in the first Harry Potter film, and they went into what is now the London Mead Grain Clinic, but was then the entrance to Expelliarmus, the leaky cauldron. Imagine, have you ever been late to a party? Well, this party is shown in this painting. The painting is called Too Early by the French Anglophile Tissot. He came to this country fleeing after the Paris revolutionary activities in the 1870s, and settled in London. He made his fortune here, painting allegedly sort of sugary society paintings, but in reality he was actually commenting on class distinctions. So we have here this arrivist bourgeoisie who attended a glamorous society party, hoping to maybe marry off their daughters, but they made the crucial faux pas of arriving too early. You can see here the maidservants sniggering with their pinnies and caps on. The wife is looking as if she's trying to encourage the musicians maybe to put something on. Does what a DJ request on to fill the room. And we've got, in comparison to the embarrassment of the nouveau riche, we have the upper classes looking a little bit like Jacob Rees-Mogg relaxing sideways, the famous painting by Tissot also of the soldier. And really it's a very subtle and fantastically well observed satire on social class distinctions. So in May 1990, £291 million in untraceable bearer bonds were allegedly captured in the streets by a random mugging at knife point. It was a carefully planned raid organised by a crime syndicate. They'd read about bearer bonds being dropped in the street in January of 1990 by the Royal Exchange and realised how easy it was to take them and use them. They carefully planned the execution. A young man in his 20s held up a 58-year-old man at knife point where I'm standing now. He took his briefcase containing, as I said, the almost £300 million worth of bearer bonds, worth almost £800 million in today's money, 2022, ran off with it, and they wanted it to look like an innocent mugging. It was carefully planned. Eventually, both Colombian drug lords and even the IRA were brought into the laundering of the money. The man who carried out the mugging was himself shot dead shortly afterwards, and the other criminals were extradited. Many served prison sentences, but the money was almost £800 million in someone's briefcase in this very street in May 1990.
So one of my other favourite paintings in this gallery is by the chocolate box painter of the Pears, Bow Bubbles artist, but he was much more serious than that. One of the original triumvirate of the Pro-Raphaelite Brotherhood, John Everett Millais. So this painting is called My First Sermon, looking very serious and interested in the Bible and what's being told to her, and yet rather not so subtle contrast. My Second Sermon, and probably the third sermon just shows an empty chair, but this is a wonderfully hilarious commentary on Victoria's religious impressions on youth by John Everett Millais, who along with Rossetti and Hopman Hunt was one of the three men who formed the Pro-Raphaelite Brotherhood. Hi, hello Chippy the dog. This is David. So imagine you're the Lord Mayor of London, the City of London, and you come to church with your sword and your mace. You need somewhere to shove your sword. What do? Well, you get one of these. This is a sword rest. This particular one dates from 1727. Every church in the city had one. If you're the Lord Mayor, you wouldn't put one in your own church. You've got the crest of the City of London here, the coat of arms of the Lord Mayor of that year. You would stick the pommel in here, and the actual point of the sword would go up there, and your ceremonial sword bearer would stick it in here for the duration of your visit to the church. And I think the Lord Mayors would come to a different church each Sunday. There are 3 in this particular church. You can see the third one over here. And it's a real mark of honour. If you were the Lord Mayor, you put one in your own church. And this is a sword rest. Hey, this is David. If you're a church and you don't want to pay the full tax for your finished building, what do? Well, I'm in the Dutch church in the middle of the City of London, completely destroyed in the Second World War and rebuilt, allegedly with money, I believe, from the Marshall Plan. What did they do? It's not finished. This inscription here, which is in Dutch, which I sadly cannot read, but if you look very closely, you'll notice here that this J is missing the dot. And it was deliberately put like that to avoid paying some form of tax or interest or whatever on the building at a lesser rate or whatever. And that's why the church is not yet finished. So I'm here on the bridge of the HMS Belfast, viewed as a lucky ship by its sailors. Only one sailor ever died in it. It was a critical ship in the battle against the German pride of their fleet, the Scharnhorst, in 1943, where, although the Scharnhorst had guns almost twice as big and twice as many as the ship, luckily the Scharnhorst's radar had been disabled, so they were able to engage with it long enough for the large battleships to come in and destroy it. So this ship was involved in the last major ship-to-ship battle in the Second World War before submarines and the aircraft took over, and it played a critical role in destroying Hitler's fleet. I'm David Harry, I am the London Spy. This is London, and please follow me if you like the videos. Click on the links to follow my TikTok, and come and see me at one of my tours.